Welcome to the Sharpcast, where we will talk about puppies and all things nice.
Get that shit out of here, motherfucker! Sharpcast, make your brain blast! Political conversation don't make you think! Yes, Sharpcast, it'll make your brain blast! Come and sit down and have a civil debate!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting Sharpcast, and I wanted to try something a little new tonight. This one is brought to you by some wonderful steaks that Scarlet had posted on Twitter. I'm not sure if you guys knew this, but when Scarlet is unable to make it to a Sharpcast, or Scarlet's not on, she's sending us her hopes and wishes and a cooked meal. And we eat that meal and devour those spiritual energies in order to come and bring you this wonderful broadcast.
I mean, it's very nice. She gives me a real small one because I'm a bird.
Yes. Those steaks will be hopefully available in the description of this video, or Gonzo can just like...
I'll have a picture up. She normally posts pictures of the cooked meals that she does, and it's on her Twitter, and I could put it in a video.
We plan on doing this every week because I really did want to show off that Sharpcast staff does a lot more than just politics, right? And
yeah, we don't just talk politics.
Definitely wanted a more effective return to form because the primary reason I wanted a podcast ever at all is because I like talk show and radio show formats. That just seems like a fun thing to do, even if there's like a lot of work and stuff involved with maintaining it. And
it certainly is, yeah.
Yeah, and I've noticed, right, now that Trump's gone and stuff like that, we kind of have to pursue higher and higher and higher heights on our own now. And when it comes to conversations and talking about goings-on, of course, there's still a lot of bad shit happening. But when it comes to the conversation in the United States, several things have happened that have really put things into perspective with me. For one, if I'm going to be informing my audience about the political goings-on in American society, I don't expect you to know every last cordial detail I do. I don't expect you to know where to look to find all the tweets and articles that I find. I don't expect you to do the level of research and canvassing work Helios, Gonzo, and I have done, because one thing I think is fundamentally understood here by the staff at the Sharpcast. Many of you are burnt out when you come home, and it can be tiring, exhausting even, to have to do all this kind of stuff just to be an informed citizen. I primarily think this is a large reason people depend on the media to give them information, or depend on talk shows like Colbert, or back in the day, Letterman, or Howard Stern, to inform them about the goings-on, because not only are these people that have been extraordinarily good at disseminating information to the public, they're also trusted, valued entertainers by our society. And I feel like I may have forgotten that little element. So when it comes to enjoying myself or making this broadcast something people want to watch, I am dedicated to that cause. And I am more so dedicated to informing people about the basics and giving them the tools they need to make a change. So there will be some things a little different as time goes along, throwing shit at the wall, seeing what sticks. Changes to the Sharpcast that make it a more formed format, and hopefully a better listening experience. Without further ado, we get on to tonight's issue. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, let's get going. I will add one thing to all the above said, okay? So I've often said that we've talked about, people often talk about how uninformed the American electorate is. The reality is, we don't have time to, most of us anyway, don't have time to sit around and read up on every single issue of the day. We don't have the energy to do that or the inclination, because many of us just don't find it interesting. So not knowing the ins and outs of politics, it doesn't make you dumb. It doesn't make you ignorant. It just makes you, it makes you a person.
That's
That
like
being
that's like
said,
yeah, that's like you and 80% of Americans. I say this to the audience, and that includes the people that are actually politically active. Sometimes I don't fault them.
that being said, I heard a very, very sage piece of advice today on one of my podcasts that I listen to, one of my other podcasts I listen to. One of the most important jobs you have is being an American citizen. It's being involved in politics, because as much as we detest politics and as ugly as it is and as boring as it is, it affects all of us. Okay, it affects what you eat. It affects where you can go. It affects what you can do. And that's especially true on a local level. I've often said that local politics are the most important politics. So while you don't have to be like me, you don't have to be so hyper connected that I can tell you if X representative is in hot water because of something or other that's going on that probably wouldn't even make your 9 o'clock news, it's still a good idea to be involved. And I've said that my hope is that the one positive impact of the administration that has just concluded is that it gives everyone a big civics lesson as to why things work the way they do in this country, and to get everyone much more involved in the political process so that we can actually start getting some proper small d democratic reforms in this country and gradually transition back from something that is firmly against the American experiment, against the American ideal, and toward a more perfect union. So with that said, let's go.
One final thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before we go into the whole discussion. One thing I find extraordinarily important is that because people in the Sharpcast are kind of in a position of more privilege where we have access to all this information and we help each other do the research and we have people that are politically inclined and informed, it seems almost like an obligation of this podcast to do a lot of the grunt work, a lot of the hard work, the headway, to make it easier for our audiences to act.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like a blatant responsibility of a talk show host. If you know something the public doesn't, it's your job to share that shit.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get into the issues for tonight. As you've probably guessed by the title of the stream, Texas turns blue. We are talking primarily about Texas becoming blue, and not in the way any of us anticipated.
Or want.
There was a very, or really want. There was a very serious winter storm down in Texas, and what has been going on down there is really fascinating to me, as it's a massive systemic failure from both an infrastructure perspective and from a political perspective. But before that, we're going to talk about the impeachment number 2. Not so much the result of the impeachment, because it was very painfully predictable, but more of the fallout from the impeachment. And I know you're all just curious to know, what possible excuse could the Republicans have found this time to let Trump off the hook? I'm going to tell you what it is, and it's going to blow you away. But before we get into that, we would be remiss if we did not mention this, as the time of this recording, February 17th, this is relatively breaking news. Conservative commentator Rush Limbaugh passed away today at the age of 70. He was diagnosed last year with lung cancer. I presume that his passing is in relation to that. I do not know anything about what will happen with his program or his estate or anything like that. I don't have information in front of me right now. I can tell you that President Biden has sent his condolences to Rush Limbaugh's family, which once again proves that Joe Biden is a much nicer guy than I will ever be. And I try to be a nice guy as much as I can, but I'm not that nice. So
you can't be as worse. You can't be as worse as Trump right now. He ended up
Trump. Trump.
He ended up calling Fox News to complain about his stolen election, thinking Rush Limbaugh also thought it was stolen from him. Yeah. He literally used
Yeah.
Rush Limbaugh's death to whine about how he lost.
You know what? I have to say this because it's been on my mind for a while and eaten away at me while I've been, paying attention to public figures that I gained my inspiration from.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I want to say is something I cannot take credit for. Howard Stern said it first. The people that vote for Trump, you can envision them in your head. They're a particular type of person. They live in rural America. They're simple people, to say the least, right? They're people who have never really been politically engaged before this. They're people who are always told by Republican bodies that any form of government assistance, oh, well, that's socialism. Any method by which Democrats propose to do X, Y, or Z for the American public, oh, you don't want that. You don't want that. Howard Stern said something that is honestly come to God in the back of my head. So, to those who vote Trump, you're the types of people he despises.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
He
That is absolutely true.
he hates you. Like 100%. He looks at your way of life, looks at your face, looks at your way of thinking, and he just knows he fucking hates you.
I'll tell you this: Trump was pretty pleased by the insurrection on January 6th, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. He was especially pleased that the people that showed up tended to be people that were like middle to upper class. Like the people there that were at the Capitol building, they were not, your backwards redneck hip or whatever, anything like that. Some of these people spent thousands of dollars to fly out to D.C. to take part in Trump's little soft coup. I imagine that if you had a bunch of farmers there, Trump's response would have been different, but I digress. But I'm very glad you brought that up, Sharp, about how these people have been conditioned to not accept government assistance. I want you to hang on to that thought for when we get to what's going on in Texas. So, all I'm going to say about Rush Limbaugh is this. He was a controversial figure. He was a divisive figure. He is a guy that if I ever had the unfortunate incident of meeting, I might be inclined to push him down a flight of stairs. With all that in mind, I understand that you probably have some very strong opinions about Rush Limbaugh. You have some strong feelings about who he was as a person. You have strong feelings about his passing. That's valid. Of course it is. If you're going to communicate them, I ask you to be at least somewhat respectful of the fact that a man has died. A man who had family, who had friends, is no longer living. And I do not believe it ultimately does anyone any benefit to trample on someone's grave, especially when the person in question is not even in the grave yet. And, all I ask is that you remember what happened when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, the reaction of some people on the right. I've told you all the story of the first time I ever blocked someone over a political reason, and it was someone who celebrated the death of John McCain. So that's my only advice to you. If you have strong feelings with Rush Limbaugh, you have strong feelings about his passing, that's fine. Just try to moderate them as best you can. Don't become what you hate. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
It ain't going to be worth it anyways.
I've seen the counter meme, which is like people look at the whole ideal of don't disrespect the dead. And people counter with don't be an asshole while you're alive.
Well, yeah. Both of those things can be true. Both of them can be true.
I don't think it's a question of right or wrong. It's essentially a question of how people feel. It's not a conundrum, right, that can be answered by law or moral philosophy alone. Mm-hmm. It's also something that if you are ever going to address people on or debate them, you have to appeal to their humanity. Like, you
Yes.
have to think about the human soul, right? Which is already something that's contemptuous in conversation because it comes off as too soft or lighthearted. But I think something I've learned over the past 3 years of actually being a contributing member of society is it is honest to God not as black and white as people think. And when I think long and hard about it, I think about the people I've disliked and hated throughout history, and I've just thought, do I care whether the people I have little to no concern with are dead or alive? Does it matter? Does it affect me? Does it, like, let's say I hated Rush Limbaugh's guts. Great, I no longer have to deal with him. Uh, but was the man really such a plague on my life? Such a problem for what I was trying to do? That I have to fucking open up the doors and throw a potluck and have a fucking party that this man died?
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's less of a question about disrespecting the dead and more of a question about, is it honestly worth my fucking time? Like, because, depending on the person you ask, it is a question of morality to some. To others, it's a question of, is this really the best way I can spend my time? Because some people don't like you in that moment because you did something disrespectful. But there are more people. People that are of an overwhelming sect of the political world of political activists that look at people that act that way and they go, you basically just undid everything I've been doing for the past 4 weeks. You are a waste of time and you are derailing the cause. Like,
Yeah.
like,
And again, just because, we're saying it's a good idea to be respectful doesn't mean you can't talk about what this man did or what he was. Like, for example,
you absolutely can.
yeah,
You
this I just got a tweet here who comes from Shannon Watts, founder of Moms Demand Action. She said she tweeted out the following: Rush Limbaugh helped create today's polarized America by normalizing racism, bigotry, misogyny, and mockery. He was a demagogue who got rich off hate speech, division, lies, and toxicity. That is his legacy. That comment I have no problem with because that you're stating something that's objectively true. Okay, you can be respectful toward the family of Rush Limbaugh while also acknowledging that he was a pretty shitty person, in all likelihood, and that he probably did far more harm than good to our discourse for the sake of personal profit. Okay, I think you can do that, and at the same time not be, not at least have the dignity to not celebrate the fact that a man is.
Yeah, I have to establish the context of the fact that it's not about criticizing the man. It's about the action you take thereafter. The
Yes.
action that indicatively defines you as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get to decide that. Like, I wish I could. I wish for every action, people could just take a chunk of my fucking brain and think exactly how I do. But I always have to consider what it is I do and how other people will look at it when I do it. Especially as somewhat of a public figure, because that can reflect poorly on Gonzo, Ricky, and Kitty for associating with me if I went too far with something.
Yeah.
And really, it's asking yourself a question of, is doing this thing more important than the people around me? Now, the answer often comes back to me as no. I would rather have these conversations in private with the people that will have these conversations with me, and when I get on the public stage, after I've vented and let all the heat out, haha, Sharpcast heated, I am of a more sound mind to talk about this with my innate bias but in a more nuanced manner. I think people miss the point of nuance. That's not because you care about yourself or your statements or your words and actions. Nuance exists because you care about how your actions can affect other people.
Yes.
The things you say and do have a ripple effect. And that's the primary conversation around, do we censor? Do we not censor? Do we publicly shame? Do we not publicly shame? When we look at the biggest figures on the internet acting a fool, we think, what's this going to do for us? What kind of damage is this going to cause?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, with all that in mind, that's our time allotted for Rush Limbaugh. So, let's go ahead and talk about the impeachment. So, as we talked about last time, we had impeachment number 2, first time a president's been impeached twice in American history. And it was a really interesting trial because the Democratic House managers did a very, very good job in presenting their case. They learned their lesson from the previous impeachment. And Trump's quote-unquote lawyers just basically ran out a Chewbacca defense that could barely be called a Chewbacca defense. It was like it got to the point where you had the senators laughing at these guys. I mean, Republican senators were laughing at these guys.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, here's the thing. At first, we had Bruce Castor, I believe, and Michael Schoen initially there for the first parts of the defense, but then we ended up getting another lawyer on the Trump team by the man called Michael Vander Veen, who I'm told he's just a personal injury lawyer out of Philly.
Yeah, like I said, these guys are like bottom of the fucking barrel when it comes to this stuff.
But the unfortunate thing is, this bottom of the barrel fucking lawyer fucking won.
Yep. So, for those interested in the scoreboard, this time you actually had 7 Republican senators vote to convict Donald Trump, which is about 7 times as more the number of Republican senators who voted for last time. Last time, as we all know, it was just Mitt Romney who voted to convict Trump. And this time you had 6 more. So this was, I believe, the most bipartisan vote for conviction in the history of the United States. Make of that what you will. But I know what you're thinking. And actually, before I get to that, Mitch McConnell voted no.
Yes.
Immediately afterwards, he went to the Senate floor and delivered this scathing speech, which held Trump directly responsible for what happened on January 6th. He did not mince words. Mitch McConnell made it clear in that moment he was holding Donald Trump personally responsible for engaging, or rather inciting, an act of insurrection against the government of the United States, an act of sedition, if not a willful act of treason. My words, not his.
I'm still convinced that he just did that for political theater because
yes, my response to it,
if he was trying to condemn Trump, he wouldn't have made that major announcement that very morning. He says, "I will vote to acquit Trump because I know what he did is bad, but I still need his votes to continue on with the party."
As the whole thing, like, symbolically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gotta do my due diligence as the host of the show here.
Mm-hmm.
So Mitch was basically just saying flat out, he acknowledges that what happened was a fucking crime undisputably.
Yes.
And he's going to do nothing about it.
Yes. To my response, which is why my response to that when I first saw it was, that's a hell of a speech, Mitch. You see, I
think that speech was the death knell of your party, buddy.
I was going to say, I want to make a witty comment about that, but I'm really, really worried it's going to come off as transphobic. I'm going to make the comment, and I want to preface this that I do not intend for this to be as transphobic at all. If that's how it comes off, I do apologize.
If it is, I'm cutting it out.
Okay, you can cut it out by all means. So you can bleep it out. That's okay. Rick gets bleeped out in the new abnormal all the time, so I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I will say to Mitch McConnell, that's a nice speech, but I know trans women who have bigger balls than you do right now.
I will say.
Also, wait a minute. I've been the only person who has bleeped out in the Sharpcast so far, thinking about it.
I will say this, right? So a trans person I used to date, that I did a similar kind of podcast with, would always talk about how she had a bigger dick than most men did. So I don't think it's a question of whether you acknowledge if they have balls or a dick. I think it's a question of whether you acknowledge them as women or not.
Okay, yeah, but yes, just to be clarify, I am not trying to be transphobic. I am not trying to insinuate anything about that. The only thing I'm trying to insinuate is that Mitch McConnell has balls that are smaller than a field mouse.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do here.
This guy, yeah, that's why I was convinced that this guy pretty much had a skinny speech for political theater. Even after he announced, he already made it public at that point that he was voting to acquit Trump. And this thing was broadcasted on C-SPAN. And I ended up watching this with the commentary by Brian Tyler Cohen, just to take off the sting a bit. And it was clear. The way that it was done was basically you get called out, you vote yes, we're going to fucking convict Trump, or no, we're going to acquit him. McConnell voted to acquit. It's all public record.
Yeah.
Listen, he doesn't want his shell to be attacked when he hides into it.
No, I think what is so incredibly beautiful is when the next Democratic president does something out of line, the first thing they're going to try to do is impeach.
Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene is already trying to impeach Biden out of spite, so...
Yeah.
The
whole thing about Marjorie Taylor is you got a better chance getting rid of her than you got to getting rid of Trump. Because I honestly think there are senators that look at that whole situation just thinking...
Well, Sharp, are you ready to have your mind blown? Because...
Oh, lovely, they defended her?
No. I promised you all that I was going to tell you the reason they voted to acquit Trump this time, and it's going to blow your mind.
Oh boy, is it to grift his voters?
The reason these guys voted to acquit Trump is because in their mind, they think that that given everything that was said during the trial, and given everything that was talked about and discussed, and the fact that Mitch McConnell and other Republicans are willing to acknowledge that Donald Trump was responsible for the insurrection, they think because of all that, there is no way that anyone will vote for Trump again.
Nobody's gonna try to roll
The fucking people who tried to kill you care about what you think.
Did they not fucking learn from 2016? Oh, we're just gonna put Trump up on the ticket. What can go fucking wrong? Here's what went fucking wrong: 4 years of fucking misery. Unless you're a Trump supporter, then it's 4 fucking years of gleeful, blissful ignorance.
It was actually 4 years of financial victory if you fell above a certain tax bracket.
Yeah, the 1%. Last name is Trump, and you actually grifted your campaign.
No, it was really funny. There were actually lefty Twitch streamers that make more money than you or me combined. Helios, they're fucking rich, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know.
And they were talking about how much Trump's tax plan actually benefited them, and that despite that, they wanted to change the president.
Yeah, I mean, you think you got to be in deep shit as a Republican when you realize, this tax plan's pretty good, but we got to get rid of these fucking guys.
And you know what their reasoning was? I think this is the most based thing I've ever heard out of a Twitch streamer. I don't need the money.
Yeah, that's
I don't need it. I'm plenty rich. I have all I need.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just when I heard the thing, I was just like, okay, have you guys realized that Donald Trump right now is the early favorite to win the 2024 nomination? Have you really been paying no attention? I mean, Do you realize Marjorie Taylor Greene has a seat in the House of Representatives? This is a woman who believes in fucking QAnon. Do you really think the voters who voted for someone who thinks that the Democrats are in fact in league with Hollywood and social media and the Illuminati to sell kids into sex slavery and cut off their faces and drink their blood? Do you really think the people that voted for her are not going to vote for Donald Trump? That they're going to decide, oh, Donald Trump, yeah, he's far too gone for us. You know, he's not our kind.
And
it's like,
here's the numbers to back this shit up.
The whole point of this impeachment trial was for you to have one final chance to look at the world and say, you see those people over there? Those aren't our people. We don't represent those people. We don't vote on behalf of those people. We don't. This was your last chance to say that. You don't get another one.
No,
Yeah,
you don't.
unfortunately. Here's even the numbers. According to Politico, Trump has scored 57% likability in the poll. Mike Pence only had 12. A bunch of the more prominent people that were polled, like Don Jr., Nikki Haley, Romney, Cruz, Rubio, they only have single-digit scores where Rick Scott never even scored one fucking percentage. We have yet to even get shit started for primaries. We have just put Biden in office, and it's been about a month since Biden took office. And Trump has the popularity despite the very, very broad and very, very serious case of him inciting a riot because he couldn't take the loss.
Yep, and now we have the first shots of the coming GOP civil war being fired with Donald Trump calling for the ouster of Mitch McConnell because of his statement. And it's a hell of a statement from Donald Trump, I'll tell you that right now.
He seemed to be doing well despite no Twitter.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
So much for Trump being canceled, right? I mean,
they kicked... Right. I think it's been made perfectly clear, right? Trump being kicked off Twitter had no bearing on whether people would go to listen to him.
Nope.
The whole reason people did that was because they gave Twitter a chance to say, hey, we don't support this. We don't endorse this. Like, has it become self-evident that things have gotten so toxic, so volatile in certain reaches of the world, you literally have to kick certain people out of the party or the party is over?
Yeah, I mean...
Have you ever heard of the phrase, don't throw a house party and invite the one guy nobody likes?
And it's not like it's, Trump tripped up some mysterious TOS violation and get himself banned. All you have to do to not get banned from Twitter is not incite an insurrection. That's not that difficult.
Yeah, but this is Trump we're talking about, who pretty much...
So, this statement from Trump, I mean, this is unreal. He calls Mitch McConnell a dour, sullen, and unsmiling political hack. And apparently, the initial statement, I've been told... Oh, here. So it also goes on to say the Republican Party can never again be respected or strong with political leaders, quote unquote, like Senator Mitch McConnell at its helm. McConnell's dedication to business as usual, status quo policies, together with his lack of political insight, wisdom, skill, and personality, has rapidly driven him from majority leader to minority leader, and it will only get worse. The Democrats and Chuck Schumer play McConnell like a fiddle. They've never had it so good, and they want to keep it that way. We know our America First agenda is a winner, not McConnell's Beltway First agenda or Biden's America Last. I am told, by the way, that the initial draft of the statement called Mitch McConnell fat. I am not making this up. It made a reference to McConnell having 6 fucking chins.
Mitch McConnell is a fat poopy pants. I bet he pisses in his bed.
He's a big dummy butterball poopy head.
Okay, so I gotta say this now. If this shit is absurd enough, They need to take fucking Eric Andre and just have him read it aloud over a microphone. Fucking Eric Andre of all people would make that shit interesting.
Yeah.
In fact, here's my thing, right? I said we should push the Trump base off to the side, right?
Yeah.
That does not mean we should ignore them existing as people. When I talked about platforming these people, I said when it comes to informing the broader public about what's really going on, you kind of have to let people hear some of this shit from the horse's lips.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when it comes to, like, holding out hope, I would argue that things get more and more complicated when television networks have to kowtow or bend the knee or shit like that. Like, I think what's blatantly hilarious is that people think that talk show hosts and entertainers that were barred from inviting certain people to their show at all were the people censoring is just hilarious to me. Like, right, I don't agree with deplatforming for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to take on a different method of taking on the situation, I am discouraged from doing that. Fall in line. Do what we're doing. Do what everybody else is doing. Wear the mask. Don't ask questions why we do it. I am not saying, by the way, that you shouldn't wear masks.
Yeah, we want to make that clear.
I am saying that going into this, I didn't even know why we wore them. I had to do the research for myself. And when I found out why, that's what infuriated me about it. Because everything I was doing was never for me. It was for other people. And that made it mean a whole lot more to me. And then hearing people go, oh, well, it doesn't protect me anyways. What does it do for me? I think the real question is, what does it do for my grandma? What does it do for my mom? What does it do for my dad? What does it do for my aunt, my uncle, my brother's step-cousin?
Keeps them alive. That's what it does.
Yeah.
What about the people who pretty much help you get your groceries checked out and all that stuff? Or the people who help serve you food?
But here's the thing that genuinely annoys me, right? All these people asking these questions are but a hair's breadth away from understanding. And they just wind up asking the wrong questions. That's what gets them. And it pisses me off when that happens. When you are this close to discovering a modicum of a strain of what's actually going on or why we're doing certain things. You are this fucking close. And then, boop, off the rails you go. That hurts way more than a person that's clueless. We were so fucking close to getting one, boys. We were so fucking close. And then, whoop, right off the fucking tracks. Because of all this derailment we do to ourselves.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, honestly, so what we're seeing here is the beginning of the GOP civil war, which again, I am here for. And so here's the problem right now. You have a faction, the vision of the GOP between two factions. You have the true believers on one side, the people who either honestly believe that Trumpism is the future or are going to use it to get what they want, and the people that want to actually take the GOP back to something that resembles a center-right party, one that at least is grounded in reality. It doesn't go around peddling conspiracy theories or tries to incite an insurrection. So on the establishment side, you have people like Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, Ben Sasse, Mitch McConnell, apparently. And on the other side, you, of course, have Rand Paul, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and the rest of the Sedition Caucus. Consider this. Between the House and Senate combined, only 17 Republicans wanted to convict Donald Trump. 17. 10 reps, 7 senators. That's it. Everyone else didn't even want to bother with it. Everyone else thought it should get off. In a related story, the majority of Republican representatives, even after they were nearly killed by a riotous mob, still did not want to certify the results of the 2020 election. Okay? This is a party where the inmates are running the fucking asylum. Any hope, that's why I've said for a while, burn it to the ground. Any hope we had of saving the GOP, bringing it back to some level of sanity, it's dead. The only possible way out is if Trump follows through with his threats to form a Patriot Party, if you will, because apparently somebody told him about Metal Gear Solid, and now he wants to be the Guns of the Patriots, or whatever the fuck those guys are called. I've never played...
the Sons of Liberty, but yeah, you're close.
Yeah, I've never played Metal Gear Solid, so I don't know anything about that, but whatever. So to me, like, I know I should. I really should. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Apparently, the rest of the MGS games are coming to PC eventually. That should be your time.
All right. But yeah.
But so yeah, the only thing that could save the GOP at this point is if Trump leaves and takes all the crazies with him, and quite a few will follow. And yeah, that's
Takes
basically what we're looking at here.
And probably loses because most third parties, they never really succeed.
Yeah, the only thing, honestly, the only hope that Trump may have is being a Ross Perot type figure, which is only going to hurt the Republicans. It's only going to hurt the Republicans.
In all honesty, the worst case scenario here is that the Republican Party has kind of proven as a gateway or a way in to the mainstream for the Patriot Party if they keep doing this catering bullshit. Like, they had a chance to stop, right?
Yes.
But the Patriot Party could work in a similar way just as Democrats did. The problem is the Patriot Party would actually be rhetorically effective. So, on one end, you would have this new Democrat movement that is shit at politics and shit at getting the policy passed that they need. And then you would have this sort of pseudo alt-right, pro-Trumpian occultism cabal really fucking hammering it in for the Republican Party. And they're just forced to sit there and cater. Who's going to get their way if that situation comes to fruition?
Trump's going to get his way.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
And we know Trump's going to get his way.
Yeah, like Ocasio-Cortez ain't going to get her way. Cenk Uygur or Kyle Kulinski, who had established Justice Democrats, they're not going to get their way.
Yeah.
Like Trump just wins this one through and through.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, that's why when they go out there and they've seen the polls, they've seen the polls that show they're going to take a Trump. They'll take a Trump. And I was talking about this on the crosstalk beforehand. Lindsey Graham, who, by the way, said that, as soon as we get the majority back, we're going to impeach Kamala Harris, which, okay, yeah.
On what grounds?
Good luck, Lindsey. Yeah, good luck with that. But he also said, more importantly, that Richard Burr, senator from North Carolina, who I believe is not running for re-election, he said that he basically promised his seat to Laura Trump. And I've been hearing word for some time that Laura Trump was going to run for Senate in North Carolina, just as Ivanka Trump's going to try to primary Marco Rubio in Florida. So, yeah, I mean, if you honestly think that the Trump brand is dead, that there's no way any Trump could ever possibly win an election to even the local dog catcher, I mean, if you believe that, you're either clueless or you're lying to yourself, which is...
That's like the districts that believed a Justice Democrat could never win a seat in the House of Representatives, and then they did.
Yeah.
They won several seats.
Now, that's all they've won is several seats, mind you, but they did win those seats. I mean, I've said in this program before that if the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is serious about putting their stamp on things, they're going to have to start learning to win in more competitive districts, but that's another program. So, all right, that's basically our statement about the impeachment. Again, I mean, the actual result in the impeachment was kind of foregone, and we all knew it, because I told you last week that in order for Trump to be convicted and be barred from running again, it would depend on whether or not people like Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley were going to do the right thing. And we know that they're not, because who are we kidding?
But I will admit this:
Mhm.
despite the impeachment not going as well as we hoped, Trump's now a private citizen. And
Yeah.
guess what? I ended up hearing that he still has that thing with the Attorney General of New York, and the new thing the new thing that started because of his perfect phone call with Georgia's Secretary of State.
Yep.
And there is a Democrat who has just decided to throw up and file a lawsuit based on the insurgents that happened on January 6th.
Yeah.
He's not a president anymore, so he's going to get sued.
And I was predicting this for a while. I've said it on this program several times that the second Trump left 600 Pennsylvania Avenue for the last time, he was opening himself up to a world of legal trouble. And initially, I thought it was just going to be civil suits related to various things that he had done, both during the presidency and prior to the presidency. You know, Trump University, Stormy Daniels, the child separation policy. Now, though, that he's gone and tried to incite an armed rebellion and try to overturn a free and fair election, there is a non-zero chance that he will not be running in 2024 because he will be in a federal prison. So
that's the point I want to make, right? Is people just think, oh, impeachment is all they had. No.
People were banking on it, but you know how well that went.
I think that's something that's beautiful, though. If the president after you does not pardon you, you can be federally tried by other bodies of the judicial system for everything you did. So if impeachment fails, fear not, ladies and gentlemen, there's still state arbitration.
Speaking of, and by the way, first of all, pardons do not apply on the state level. The states can go after you. Also, speaking of pardons, you may recall that Roger Stone got a pardon on Trump's last day in office. Well, it turns out that federal prosecutors are investigating whether or not, they had investigated whether or not Roger Stone had ties to the Proud Boys. So, and we could also confirm that Roger Stone was present in D.C. on January 6th. So, depending on what
right now. So I did want to say this real quick while the thought's fresh in my head. Right now, if you are participating in a group that is doing so much as punching people in the shoulder for the wrong opinion, you're probably being federally investigated. After an insurrection, this trickles down. This doesn't stop at just the people that stormed the Capitol. Now I guarantee, if they haven't been already, people associated with anti-fascist causes are probably going to get door knocks from the FBI or the Department of Homeland Security or whoever they can get.
Well, they certainly might. They certainly might, but right now they're starting with the guys responsible for the insurrection.
Yeah, people who were involved with, for example, the George Floyd riots that caused some serious damage and almost got away with it. They're probably going to be seeing some door knocks. Like, this kind of shit trickles down because America, right? So the bodies of government and then the systems themselves behave and operate differently. If a justice system or the prisons or law enforcement actually feel in the air that people are losing faith in the system, they will batten down hard to show the system still has teeth. They do not want people thinking this is just a fucking free-for-all and people can go and commit crimes and do whatever they want. The justice system, now that the impeachment trial is over, now that we're left to ruminate on everything that happened in the Capitol, has a huge order to fill. And by golly, they're going to start writing down names.
They already are. They've already, I think, arrested and charged over 200 people involved with the riot. Merrick Garland is scheduled to have his confirmation hearing on the 22nd, and it's not gonna stop at the riots, right? They're gonna investigate social media posts, manifestos, anything involved with these people, and if any of their actions were causally pointed to the actions of another group that had engaged in violence, those people are probably on the docket for investigation next. Yes.
Which means you're going to have to start watching your mouths if you're, I guess, an anarchist who likes to set shit on fire.
Yeah, like maybe don't encourage people to tip over police cars. Right now the
Yeah,
water's a little hot.
maybe hold off on that for a while, you know.
Or try
Maybe
to
hold off
fucking
on-
storm the White House and arrest Joe Biden for
And-
little to no
and-
reason.
And it's the thing, I look at the left-wing members of my audience, and some y'all are fucking brain dead and don't understand economics. But a lot of y'all I've spoken to are extraordinarily smart people, and you know when you go out doing these certain things, you are in fact committing a state and federal crime. You know it. I know it. But, to an extent, we both know that if you keep your head low and don't engage in any action from this point on, you might just come out with your hair intact. So keep your fucking head low.
Or just don't fucking try to be like a crazy lunatic. Or at least try that. You're not gonna make a major difference if you try to set the Capitol on fire and execute Pelosi in front of a firing squad of COD cosplayers.
But
we've had enough
say
craziness for the last 4 years. Let's all try to chill for a while. You know?
Yeah, like, also I will say this. All the criticizing you guys have been doing of the justice system and prisons, butt bashing still happens in jail. So unless you're a homosexual with a kinky so-and-so fetish,
If
fill
you
in
like
the
ass
blank.
play.
Yeah, if you like some hardcore ass play with Big Bubba, yeah, like,
Oh,
be
Lord.
my...
Oh Lord.
Be my fucking guest. But 9 to 5 tells me a lot of y'all people feel the same way as Me Too victims do in that situation.
Oh boy.
All
That
right,
one's gonna be a spicy one, but I think it's true.
So let's move on. Since we brought up Ted Cruz, let's go talk about what's going on now in Texas. So
Oh, the
as
bullshit
you
that's
have all
happening with me and
heard,
my friends.
there's been a series of very, very strong winter storms that have swept throughout the country over the course of this week. Texas was one of the states that was affected, which was a surprise to a lot of people because, you know, it's Texas. When the hell is it going to snow in Texas? I actually got a text from a friend of mine who showed me an emergency alert that she got on her phone where it was like, you know, it literally said life-threatening conditions because of icy roads. I'm just like, icy roads, come on. Up here in Michigan, that's like a Tuesday for us. Well, the storm that we got yesterday was definitely not a Tuesday. We got about 10 inches of snow where I'm at, and thankfully everything's all plowed out there. But Texas has basically become hot, for lack of a better word. It is a frozen hellscape down there. We are looking at, in addition to record cold temperatures down in Texas, rolling blackouts because the electrical grid cannot keep up with the demand from the consumers. And 20 people have already died from the extreme cold, including
Wait, there's deaths?
Yeah, 20 people have actually died, including a woman and
Oh,
an
hell
8-year-old
no.
girl. Yeah, two of the deaths were a woman and an 8-year-old girl who tried to use their car in the garage to keep themselves warm and, well, predictably died of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah,
So,
that was
That'll
a pretty
happen.
bad move.
yeah.
That is sad.
You'll be surprised on how many people still don't know about carbon monoxide poisoning. Many people that have died from it were not intentional suicides.
Yeah, these were basically accidents because a lot of people tried to bring generators inside, heaters, grills inside because it's too cold to do anything and there's no electricity. And basically, it just opens them up to carbon dioxide poisoning because that's not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to be bringing those things inside and try to run them. Like, that's going to get you killed. You're good.
Yeah.
And it'll be a slow and painful. I'm not sure about painful, but it'll be a slow death in which you don't realize you're dying.
Certain ones work really well as long as you're in a building that's pretty well ventilated. Like kerosene heaters are the ones people use indoors. You don't want to use anything that has any kind of associations with carbon. Because
Like anything gas, Ron.
Yeah, carbon in a packed space usually leads to carbon monoxide. So like one thing that's like really possible is in households, certain households that have those automatic heaters, that like light a fire and go for a little bit, those can malfunction and start distributing carbon monoxide through the vents. So you have to be careful about having those in your house. And this happened with me and my grandmother once because we had one of those. This is a grandmother that's passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the middle of the night, and the smoke detector actually went off and warned us there was carbon monoxide in the house.
Wow.
For one, you don't die instantly from carbon monoxide. We would have had to have slept the entire night and breathed that in all night long for it to kill us. Like, it takes a long period of time of exposure to carbon monoxide. It is a slow killing poison, not immediate, not quick. It's not like
I said, it's slow. You basically be drowsy and sleepy, and you wouldn't even know that it's killing you.
Yeah, it's not it's not a harsher poison. It's a very slow killing poison. This is why a lot of smoke detectors have a built-in feature to detect carbon monoxide nowadays. Because what we found was, sure, while most people will die from a fire, the smoke detectors to tell you, oh, there's a fire if you're out of the room. Carbon monoxide does not cause smoke. It's an invisible gas. So, unless you had a feature inside the smoke detector that was also able of detecting chemical levels of toxicity, you would die from carbon monoxide poisoning that night. Many smoke detectors are built in nowadays with carbon monoxide detection. It is standard.
Yes.
Oh God!
So
I gotta
make
worry
sure
about my
that
friends
you.
even worse.
So if you have to run a generator, make sure you run it outside. Don't put the generator inside the house.
And also be careful about heaters.
Never do that.
My IRL friend, her house ended up burning down over Christmas because a heater was left on.
Yeah, use something like a portable kerosene heater. That's what my family uses in bouts of extreme cold. And kerosene is fine. It's fine. As long as you don't fucking knock it over or break the glass that the fire is behind, you'll be good.
Now, why are people dying from this? Well, here's the sad news that I gotta worry my friends about. As Helios says, the grid cannot handle the demand. So, what was their ideal plan, Helios?
Well, so here's what you might be wondering. Okay, they can't handle the demand. Why not? Because these storms, as I mentioned, have been going throughout the country. And I'm up in Michigan. There's no power failures up here. We're all nice and warm and toasty. So what's going on? Texas is actually not part of the national electrical grid. They have their own independent electrical grid because, well, they're Texas. And their grid is primarily powered by coal, natural gas, and fossil fuel plants. I mean, obviously fossil fuel because all the oil that's down there in Texas. I mean, when people think of the oil industry, they tend to think of Texas. And they also have some green energy plants that are coming online, namely solar, wind, and nuclear. There's one nuclear plant in Texas. I think there's like one or two nuclear plants in Texas. Yeah.
Nuclear is actually considered green energy?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Although kind of unsafe, all things considered.
Well, no,
3 Mile Island.
No. Okay, all right, hold on. I am not gonna let you guys besmirch. Nuclear power is actually very safe. Okay, I'm not making this up. It's actually not a joke. It's very, very safe.
Incidences of nuclear meltdown happen usually due to poor design of the plant. This isn't usually a failure on nuclear power's part. That's how Chernobyl happened. A bunch of arrogant Russians and shoemakers were just like, yeah, let's make a nuclear power plant. We only have no idea on what to do. Our egos are so fucking elongated, we won't listen to the contractors or nuclear physicists that are literally telling us how to do this.
Okay,
we'll just fucking wing it.
All right, so the whole point, what happened with Chernobyl was basically both Anatoly Dyatlov being an arrogant prick as well as a failure of imagination. Essentially, Dyatlov wanted to go ahead with a very dangerous test for no other reason than that the state asked him to do it, and he wanted to get a gold star on the report, so he went ahead and did it. What he didn't know, and I'm not gonna get into nuclear physics with you all here, but the Chernobyl reactor had a design flaw that was put in because it was cheaper. In fact, the whole design of the reactor was because it was considerably cheaper to build. That resulted in the emergency stop button turning into a detonator, which resulted in the core exploding. So when we think about, of course, I understand the same about nuclear power. Like whenever you bring up the benefits of nuclear power, all someone has to do is say 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, or Fukushima, right?
Wasn't it something about the fact that they used graphite bars over lead bars or something like that?
Yeah, graphite. It was graphite-tipped fuel rods, and graphite is, again, I'm not going to get into the whole technical explanation, but basically graphite. The whole point of inserting control rods into a nuclear reactor is to slow down the process of nuclear fission. Graphite actually accelerates the process. So when they hit the button, slow things.
So graphite hyper powered the reactor and turned it into a bomb.
Yeah, so when they hit the button to slow things down, it instead sped things up and it exploded. So
literally that would only happen if you decide to invest in the cheap option when making.
Yeah, that was literally why they had graphite tick rods. It was cheaper. It was cheaper. We should watch. Maybe one day we'll do like a Sharpcast presents and we'll watch the Chernobyl series because it's really, really, really good.
All right, now.
Also, I realized, okay, now I'm just thinking, so the blanket explanation of nuclear power being bad is essentially like, hey, hammers should not be used because this guy killed himself thinking he was invincible and hit himself in the head with a hammer multiple times.
That's pretty much it.
It's actually really funny. The thing that made nuclear energy so scary to people was no failure on nuclear energy's part.
Yeah.
Physics majors, anybody that had any knowledge on like nuclear fusion or fission, knew exactly what they were talking about. People who build nuclear power plants and are contracted to design them know exactly what goes into them and what design flaws there are and potential risks there are when they build things a certain way. The failure is leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Like if leadership does not make the right choices to save fucking lives, which maybe it was just the fact that the Soviet Union was really fucking arrogant. So when a scientist said, "Don't do graphite bars, you'll kill us all," they probably had him fucking shot right on the spot.
The official position of the Soviet Union was that the disaster of the scale of Chernobyl could not have happened. That they literally could not have had a nuclear disaster in the Soviet Union. That was their official position. That's why they worked to cover the whole thing up. That's why they didn't tell the people of Pripyat that, holy shit, you got to get out of there until it was already far too late. That's why to this day...
That's also why, for example, a lot of people were going back and looking at this Chernobyl HBO series and looking up stuff about Chernobyl when coronavirus hit.
Oh yeah,
because of the way we were treating it. We were basically trying to say, "Oh, we don't have the coronavirus. This can't happen. This doesn't happen in America." We were fucking doing that. We'll say we weren't, but we fucking were.
Yeah, I've brought it up many times. Is that there's a lot of overlap between how the Trump administration handled the coronavirus and how the Soviets handled Chernobyl.
I will say this. The only thing that saved us was the president couldn't have dissenters shot. The Soviet Union could.
But come to think of it, let's bring it back to Texas about the
So again, to go back, but again, the whole point of nuclear power is that nuclear power is actually a very safe, very efficient form of clean energy. And I understand that whenever you want to put water on it, all you got to do is mention 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, or Fukushima. But understand, 3 Mile Island was a minor leak, and nobody really got hurt.
I don't know why.
Chernobyl was a case of people being arrogant and stupid and not knowing what the fuck they're doing. And Fukushima had a fucking earthquake go off beneath it. Okay?
I don't know why I said 3 Mile Island. That was just a minor thing.
Yeah,
so
3 Mile...
So, like, the risks essentially involved are the guy who designed it was a fucking prick that put human lives at risk, or literally natural disaster.
Yeah, and, like, the worst possible the worst earthquake in history going off under a nuclear reactor. That's going to cause problems anywhere.
And it's like anything else, right? A flood, a hurricane, For one, I think if you fucking flooded a nuclear reactor, that would just cool it down.
Well, yeah, it would. That's actually how
Yeah.
you cool down nuclear reactors, but it doesn't make them any less radioactive. But anyway,
No,
so
all that water streaming out would probably be highly radioactive. You wouldn't want to touch it.
yeah. Anyway, so with all the stuff going on in Texas, as I mentioned, they have their own independent power grid, and it's primarily powered by coal, natural gas, and oil and fossil fuel plants. A lot of these plants are actually deactivated in the wintertime. They're turned on in the summer because of higher demand because of air conditioning, and they have lower demand in the winter, so not all of them are turned on. And it's totally understandable because, I mean, it's Texas. How cold could it possibly be down there, right? Well
yeah. It normally doesn't, but this is a rather unprecedented event.
Not as unprecedented as you might think, because there were warnings for a while from the people that are in charge of Texas energy production that, like, hey, listen, in the event that we do get like a catastrophically cold blizzard or something along those lines, we should winterize our plants to make sure that they can function in the winter. And they didn't do that. And so now you have a case where all the wind turbines are frozen up, and natural gas plants too cold, the coal plants too cold. Nothing can really be turned on. And the ones that are working aren't being able to provide enough output, either because they're being told to ration their output, which is leading to these rolling blackouts, or they're just not able to get the power to the people on time. So what you have is an epic clusterfuck of infrastructure failure in Texas right now, and it was completely preventable. Like, if you just went to the notion of winterizing the equipment, this would have all been mitigated. And again, I get it. It's Texas. The coldest it gets down there on average in the wintertime is probably 40 degrees. Maybe not even that. You generally don't see snow down there, okay? I understand all of that. But when you have people telling you, like, in the event this happens, it's going to be a problem. We got to make sure we're prepared for it. You might want to at least consider preparing for it. But the Texas government never did that. And even right now, and this is where we get into the more political side of things, Texas, of course, is a very, very red state, or at least it was. It may not be as red as it appeared to be in the past, but it is still predominantly a red state. You have Greg Abbott, who's the governor there. And Greg Abbott went on Fox News it was either Tucker's show or a Hannity show, one of the two, and they said that what was happening in Texas, this is what would happen to America if we signed the Green New Deal.
You mean that everybody's just going to collectively sit on their fucking asses, not winterize everything that they need, everything on their infrastructure, and just basically do nothing until the next Arctic blast comes through and takes out everything?
Well, the narrative they're trying to push here, that Greg Abbott is trying to push, is that the primary reason the power isn't on and it's not working is because of the green energy plants, the solar plants, the wind plants. It's like they can't work in these conditions. And that's certainly true. What you have to realize, though, is that those plants account for about 13% of the blackouts right now in Texas. The rest of the blackouts are because the natural gas plants are too cold, because the coal plants are too cold, because the oil plants can't generate enough power to meet demand. And now you get all these people trying to get warm now in Texas. So the power grid is simply taxed. And I want to mention as well that if they didn't have their own power grid, if they were connected to the national power grid like every other fucking state in the continental U.S. is, they probably would be able to mitigate a lot of this stuff, and they wouldn't be having these issues.
But here's the thing, though. Texas wanted to be independent because way back when Rick Scott, what was it? Rick Perry. Yeah, he was governor. They were trying to disconnect because they think Texas will be in an independent nation. They thought about secession a couple of times, and they wanted to be truly independent, completely detached from the rest of the United States. Look where that got them.
Looking at it, before all this, I had actually thought Texas could adequately survive on its own. But it seems like if we left Texas to its own devices, the leadership is so incompetent they would kill off their own people.
I mean,
They
look,
are right now, just to prove the Green New Deal is evil, even
Yeah,
though it
they've
hasn't
already-
been put in.
20 people have died because Greg Abbott would rather go on Fox News than actually try to govern his state.
If Texas had actually seceded, what the fuck would they blame? Because at that point, they're not like in any way.
Well, Rick
healthy
Perry,
Green New Deal.
when Rick Perry was governor, when Texas was going through a record drought, he tried to pray the drought away. I suspect the Republic of Texas may have tried to do something similar in this regard, to pray the cold away, if you will. Yeah, but
Yeah,
So-
how'd that work
I
out?
pray to you, God,
How-
that no heat here, more hot, yes,
how-
cold bad.
I gotta ask, how'd that work out for AIDS in Indiana?
It was HIV.
It all comes together. Yeah,
I
HIV.
pray to you, great Lord.
Yeah, and
Jesus,
if they're trying to pray away the
please
snow, it's
no
not
more
working. According to
butt
forecasts in my area, at least, we're getting more snow, which probably means more people get more snow.
Well, for one, I'm not even gonna go the atheist angle and say, "Oh, that's because prayer don't work." Didn't God say He wouldn't interfere in our affairs?
Yeah.
I
forgot
don't
that.
know.
So, like, maybe I'm just forgetting something. You know, after the flood, after the portion of the Bible with Noah, maybe I'm forgetting. Maybe I'm forgetting about what God said after both Adam and Eve had bitten into the apple of Eden. By the way, not a religious scholar here, and even I've thought about this. So, yeah, pretty sure God made like several references about how He's not gonna directly fuck with our shit.
Unfortunately, that's probably blatantly ignored, like many
Like, what is
of
it?
the
Like,
other stuff that would have been prohibited in Christianity had they actually followed the Bible.
Like, I think, if I recall right, we actually used to use praying as a stance of solidarity before we took action. Like, because Christians used to be hugely involved with, like, charity and doing shit all the time for the community.
Right.
All right, so I actually want to take a moment to kind of give you, the people here listening to the show, I want to present to you all, in the words of people down in Texas, what is actually going on down there. So I have a article here from the Texas Tribune that was posted yesterday, the 16th, that talks about what's been going on down there. And this will hopefully give you a really clear, concise idea, just so you don't think that we're not bullshitting or exaggerating or anything else.
I can also confirm with a few friends' accounts.
Yeah, so this is what's going on down here. This is from the Texas Tribune, as written by Shannon Najmabadi and Marissa Martinez, posted yesterday, February 16th, 2021.
My birthday.
How about that? A grandmother slept in her car. Parents who ran out of firewood burned belongings to keep their children warm. A Richardson resident watched the battery level of her partner's oxygen machine drain away and desperately sought to help have it recharged. As Texas utility operators and politicians squabbled over responsibility for load shedding and rolling blackouts, Tuesday, many residents scrambled simply to stay warm and alive. Millions suffered through Monday night without power as a massive winter blitz sent temperatures plunging, shuttered grocery stores, and caused widespread outages. With little certainty of when power would be restored and politicians angrily blaming the state's grid operator, thousands were left facing another night in brutal, potentially life-threatening conditions. At least 10, now 20 deaths have been linked to the disaster, and hundreds of people who live on the streets are being directed to seek life-saving refuge at shelters. Texas residents said the storm and ensuing partial collapse of the state's power system sapped what mental reserves they had left after 11 months of a global health crisis that has cost thousands of jobs and claimed more than 40,000 lives in the state. To go through all that and also have the stuff like this happen, it's like one more historical event and I'm going to develop PTSD, said Brianna Blake, 31, and mother of two sons. I cannot do this. Blake's family moved to Texas from Ohio this summer after her husband was laid off due to the pandemic and a tornado hit their home, destroying nearly everything. They tried to stock up on water and firewood after they lost power Monday, but the shelves of local gas stations were cleared out and grocery stores were closed. They couldn't find a room at hotels in nearby Memphis and Beeville, according to Blake. Instead, They nestled a futon mattress and every comforter they owned near a fireplace and slept in a pile until 3 a.m. when the couple noticed the fire was dying down. In desperation, Blake pulled a piece of canvas artwork off the wall of their Portland home and snapped it. According to her, there was no alternative to keep the heat going. It was the most helpless feeling as a mom, she said, watching her 4 and 7-year-old sons sleep, blissfully unaware of what their parents were doing. The bare minimum is providing them with shelter and warmth and food. That's our bare emotional job as parents, she said, growing emotional. It was just heartbreaking to know that these boys were going to wake up freezing. They were going to wake up cold. I would have broken every belonging that belonged to me to prevent that happening. In East Texas, Lisa Blevins worried the freezing temperatures could hurt her 41-year-old daughter, who has an autoimmune disease that makes her susceptible to becoming severely ill. Blevins, 58, said she couldn't take her daughter anywhere if she got ill. They don't want to risk her being infected with the coronavirus. Blevins' household, including her husband, daughter, teenage stepdaughter, and the stepdaughter's friend, piled into a family car last night along with one of the family's 3 dogs and 2 cats for a respite from the cold. But they returned to the house and covered themselves with blankets after a few hours to avoid keeping the car going too long and running out of gas. I didn't even have a clue that there was a chance our electric could go off, said Blevins, who blamed state leadership for the poor planning. You could have had a generator, you could have thought to do those things. Those things don't just don't happen in Texas, so no one is prepared for it. Meanwhile, her 34-year-old son huddled his son and wife in front of the gas fireplace to weather the freezing temperatures. His wife has started to get symptoms of a cold. The power outages have proved particularly disruptive for those who need to charge medical devices. Ashlyn Hoffner and Richardson called emergency responders around 4:30 a.m. as their partner's oxygen machine ran low on battery. The machine, which must be charged every few hours, kicked into a backup mode after the power at Ashlyn Hoffner's apartment went down earlier this week. She called the power company, was placed on a lengthy hold, and later called 911. After guiding 2 first responders to a darkened apartment with flashlights, Ashlyn Hoffner helped load her partner onto a wheelchair. They were taken to a nearby hospital and then to a dialysis center where the machine was charged. Ashlyn Hoffner picked Katie Hoffner up, 31, up from the center, and the couple went to a friend's house where they were greeted with heating, spicy pasta, and power strips. I am angry about the whole thing, Katie Hoffner said in a text message. The blackouts happened in the middle of a snowstorm without any thought to how it would affect disabled people. Nothing new there. We are also going to have to throw our food because our fridge hasn't been on for 2 days. I'm lucky to have my partner and my friends. Not everyone is that lucky. The couple will drive to Plano tomorrow so Katie Hoffner can get dialysis needed for chronic kidney and heart issues. Nobody had anything for us, really, Ashlyn Hoffner said to the government's response, so we ended up having to fend for ourselves, which is really frustrating. Many faulted the government for not warning them power could be out for days while the state was swept by freezing temperatures. While most houses in Texas are girded for the sweltering summers, they're not always insulated to protect against cold weather. Plows and salt used in states that routinely get snow are not common in Texas. Blake, the mother of the 4 and 7-year-old, said the past few days have been a white-knuckle hang-on-tight ordeal. Fear was the only word that could describe what the family was feeling, she said in a written message. My husband and I are fearful that we may endure another night with no power and we've run out of options. When I was in school, I remember talking about the Great Depression and seeing a picture of people burning money to stay warm in our history book. At this point, I wish I had the $400 on average I spend a month on my electricity bill to burn. At least then, I would be able to keep my children warm. On Tuesday, the family tried to get gas but found snaking lines outside 2 stations. At one Valero, which is a sponsor for this paper, by the way, they pulled up to around 10 a.m. They neared the front of the queue only to watch a woman place a plastic bag over the pump and say, "We're out." Blake said the local community has pulled together what has felt like an absent communication from officials who initially warned of rolling blackouts lasted just an hour or so at a time. This was poorly managed, she said. It was clarifying, to be honest with you, because now we know when things hit the fan, we're in it alone. Their power was restored on Tuesday afternoon. Other Texas residents said they felt relatively lucky to have a roof over their heads and food to eat, even if they were freezing without heat or electricity. Sarah Rushing said she and her family lost power in Channelview at 4 a.m. Tuesday and did not have it back by afternoon. They have sufficient food and water, but limited heat. The only reliable source of heat is their gas stove, but it's too risky to leave on, she said. Besides Anon, who is legally blind and lives, Rushing isn't as worried for her family as she is for those who don't have similar resources. She said the local government could have done a better job preparing residents for the storm. Everyone knows that some sort of natural disaster is bound to happen every couple of years, and yet every hurricane, flood, and falling of snow somehow puts more Texans in terrible circumstances, Rushing told the Tribune in written messages. Sergio Trisha said the power went out in his Austin neighborhood in early hours of Monday, though his family had prepared by buying food and covering pipes. They were expecting minimal power outages, not the 38 hours of electricity that he and other residents had experienced by Tuesday evening. He said his family has recharged its phones in their car every 25 minutes. After almost 4 days of bad weather, Trish said the novelty of icy weather has begun to wear off, and now the biggest concern is warm. He said his 2 small kids, aged 7 and 2, are wearing 3 layers of clothes, and the family is trying to move to stay warm while buckled down in one room. I can literally see my breath in my house now. We've got to be in the 40s inside my house, easily, Tristan said. But we're the lucky ones, right? We're lucky we have a home to be inside. We're lucky we have some food we prepared a little bit. I think there's just a whole community of people who are not being serviced properly. That's the end of the article, and I would like to cap this off by saying that when asked about the situation, former governor of Texas and former Secretary of Energy Rick Perry said that being cold is a sacrifice that some Texans should be willing to make.
Well, not just
You
Rick
know,
Perry, but
you
there's
know-
also word that a former mayor, I believe, also had those exact sentiments as well.
By the way,
the mayor of Colorado City, Texas, Tim Boyd, who also has kind of shared the same exact sentiments of Rick Perry, but went a little bit further and cranked it to 11, saying, and here I got this up, let me hurt some feelings while I have a minute. No one owes you or your family anything, nor is it the local government's responsibility to support you during these trying times. Sink or swim, it's your choice. City council, along with power providers or any other services, owes you nothing. Sick and tired of people looking for a handout. If you don't have electricity, step up and come up with a game plan to keep your family warm, safe. Da 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 da. Bottom line, don't be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution.
Don't be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution, huh? Is this close enough? Is this a reasonable range? Am I ear raping the audience yet?
Yeah, probably.
Some of you may die.
So
It's a sacrifice.
I'm holding my microphone, right? It's a little dangerous to grab this microphone. I am gripping this damn thing, trying not to break it. Because I am about to fucking squeeze this thing until the circuits pop out.
Jesus.
You know what? I am sick and fucking tired of people like that. No one owes you anything. Is that who you are? You see people struggling, you see hardship, and the first fucking thing that comes out of your mouth is that. You know what? Shoes off. If you were drowning in a river, I wouldn't save you. You wouldn't do it for anyone else. You wouldn't do it for anyone else. I wouldn't kill you. I wouldn't do that to you. But I'm not grabbing your hand. I'm watching you sink. I'll instead save the mother that was thinking about burning all the money she spent on electricity to keep her children warm. I'd save her. I'd save the dad who broke a fucking painting to keep his children warm. I'd save the person that's fighting fucking tooth and nail to keep their lover from having the last moments of light fucking fleet their eyes as their oxygen machine hits fucking zero. But I wouldn't save you. You sit here, empty, half-hearted notions of what we need to do for ourselves and others, while you speak apathy and mock your constituents. Burn in hell! Die in hell! Rot in hell! And I have never said that to anyone. But this is disgusting. If someone shot you, I'd dance. I'd do an Irish jig to it. Fuck you. Sharpwing out.
Yes, the mentality right now that we're seeing from the Texas government can be summed up thusly. Ren, this is your moment. I want to make sure that everyone can hear you do this because we've been building up to this with the whole show.
Yeah.
Ren, what would Lord Farquaad say about all this?
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
So, why did Sharpwing talk to Gonzo about photoshopping that man's face on Lord
Fuckwad?
Well, I can even confirm this as well. You've seen my VR chat videos, right? The guy who organized and runs most of the werewolf games. He's a friend of mine and he lives in Texas. He is affected by this. I was seriously on call with him a couple of nights ago when this whole shebang went down. We were basically just hanging out. I was vibing. I was watching some YouTube videos, and he was level grinding on other games because he likes to level grind a lot on some of the games like Final Fantasy and Apex Legends and all that. The power went out, and we've been keeping track of him for a while now. He hated this, that there's been no power, it's fucking cold as balls, and it's just gotten to the point to where he has to go and be at his grandmother's house. I don't know where that is, but it wasn't very pleasant of him. It's not. Especially considering that it was very much of a struggle trying to find candles and something to start a fire with at 4 a.m. when it's gotten relatively cold, and trying to keep warm about it. And not just him, a few of our friends also from VRC happens to also live in Texas, and they're dealing with this bullshit too. This isn't just some people whining, hey, we need a handout because we're too lazy. It's, hey, we need a fucking helping hand because this is a very, very strong storm. It's affected a lot of people. People are now dying because they're trying to stay warm, and it's getting worse. Stop playing political theater and help us.
No one owes you anything. When people, your neighbors, your brothers and sisters are struggling, does anybody have a problem with what I'd said there, even if it came off as like semi-violent?
No, absolutely not.
It's insane.
Like the level of apathy cannot be understated. But not only are these people who don't care about you, these are people who fucking suck at their job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're essentially looking at you and saying, you pay me tax dollars in and out to do absolutely nothing for you.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think this dovetails very nicely back with the impeachment and how, you see, what the Republicans did with impeachment. So you have Republican senators who refuse to convict a clearly and obviously guilty Donald Trump because they think, oh, well, the voters won't vote for him again. And you have the people down in Texas who would rather say, we don't owe you shit, or would rather go on Fox News and spin some yarn about how this is proof the Green New Deal will destroy America, rather than trying to save your constituents. In both cases, you have elected officials, Republican elected officials, bluntly telling their constituents, we can't do the job that you elected us to do. Or even worse, we refuse to do the job that you elected us to do because it would be inconvenient for us.
We're not going to get a goddamn cent out of it. And hell, come to think of it, that's the reason why there were some of the blackouts. I don't know if I'm remembering this or not, but they were trying to add a little. They were trying to also force pay for the rolling blackouts and trying to get all the electricity working up with the natural gas and all that stuff.
Yeah. But people are starting to notice right now. I mean, Greg Abbott's getting pretty ripped. Ted Cruz, of course, his comments about how the Texas power grid should be the standard for America and not the California power grid or whatever are coming back to bite him in the ass. The Lincoln Project's already started trolling Ted Cruz over this matter. I predict they'll be going after Greg Abbott soon. And we also should take time to mention another Texas politician. I wanted to get this guy in before we wrapped up for the night. Another politician from Texas, a certain former Navy SEAL by the name of Dan Crenshaw, who you may remember attempted to save the Republicans' chances in Georgia by jumping out of an airplane and beating up Antifa protesters, at least for his cheesy little campaign commercial.
What's he up to?
Well, I'll tell you what he's up to. Charlie Sykes over at The Bulwark wrote an article about the hypocrisy of Dan Crenshaw when it comes to this. I'm going to read it out for you right now because Charlie Sykes, if you don't follow The Bulwark, it's really, really good articles there. It's kind of like a nice little counterpunch to the Daily Beast, which is where I get my other side from. And Charlie Sykes is one of the opinion contributors there. He does a really, really good job with the stuff. He's almost as lethal as people like Tom Nichols and Rick Wilson when it comes to not mincing his words. And he wrote a little something about Dan Crenshaw. I'm going to read it for you now. And
Actually,
What's up?
before that, we're going to go a little over. Do you know what I'm doing?
What are you doing?
I'm calling my governor.
You're calling your governor?
Yeah, you know why?
Why?
Governor Mike DeWine's office. If you're calling regarding the COVID-19 virus, please contact the Ohio Department of Health at 1-833
Go through the whole spiel.
275-634. If you need to get a hold of the Ohio Governor's Office, please visit our website at www.governor.ohio.gov. Click the contact link at the top of the page, and we will respond to as many as we can. Thank you.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Hello, Governor DeWine. This is William Webster, one of your faithful constituents of the District of I was calling to ask and inquire on what Ohio plans to do for the state of Texas. We talk an awful lot about their beautiful, beautiful way and how they handle the Second Amendment. And I know that Ohio talks highly about Texas, about how we respect and revere them, love their people. Some of us would even like to move there. We're doing pretty well off for the COVID pandemic. Hell, right now we actually have one of the major electronics corporations designing circuit boards for the government's COVID vaccines. I'm asking you right now, Governor DeWine, as the leader of this state, what are we going to do for our neighbors in Texas? I genuinely want to know. There are people breaking paintings and starting fires to help their children while their electricity is just gone. There are people struggling to keep people on oxygen machines as life fleets from them. If you can, Governor DeWine, I don't need a call back, but I need some kind of insurance that my state's leader actually gives a fuck about this country. Thank you.
That's a lot of information I'm going to have to fucking censor.
Not too much.
Right. But anyways. What about Dan Crenshaw? Ilios?
You heard that. I called my governor. I am not a person who sits by and watches this shit happen.
Helios, hello? Are you muted or what? I'm probably gonna have to find out via his recording.
Yeah, I'm actually curious as to what happened to Helios.
I may have to look it up.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, wait. Heard
What's
something?
up?
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I had to get called down really quick. I had to go sign my tax return form.
Well, some more information I gotta fucking censor.
So, for those of you wondering, Gonzo, you can bleep out my district. You don't have to bleep out my name, and you don't have to bleep out any of the information I gave about COVID vaccines because I didn't name the company.
I was gonna say, like, Sharp's really serious. He's willing to dox himself on his own about
podcast, yeah. But anyways, since now we're back and we dealt with Sharp's call to his governor, addressing the issues.
All right.
What about Daniel Crenshaw? What's happening with him?
All right. So this is the article that Charlie Sykes wrote for the Bulwark, was posted about 12 hours ago, so about 10 o'clock this morning, February 17th, and it's called Crenshaw Reloaded. So here we go. But this whole episode is turning into story time with Helios, but whatever. Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw has some deep thoughts about what ails right-wing politics these days. There is, he says, way too much performance rather than persuasion. Too much grift. Too much talking about fighting and owning the libs in the snarkiest of fashions. In a column headlined, What It Really Means to Fight, published in the lib-owning Daily Wire, Crenshaw makes the case for a politics of reason and persuasion. Too often, Crenshaw writes, politicians and pundits who scream fight are creating a conservative, safe space, which will not bring us to what he calls real cultural and political progress. The dirty little secret, he writes, is that some of the influencers or pundits who scream the loudest about getting out and fighting are not, in fact, interested in real solutions. Rather, their dedication to the cause is based on monetary return by continually feeding the beast, and the beast is especially hungry when it is angry. The piece is winning Crenshaw accolades from people like Dan McLaughlin and David French. And indeed, it is good, strong stuff. Unless you consider the author is himself one of the Trumpiest grifters extant. It seems worthwhile to remember that the author of this meditation on fighting was the same guy who just 2 months ago released a Georgia Reloaded ad in which he portrays himself as an action figure who fights Antifa. The video was a remake of his earlier video, Texas Reloaded, which the Daily Beast described as a seizure-inducing B-movie Mission Impossible cosplay ad for his campaign, replete with a Crenshaw command center where he receives a top-secret package he's able to read by removing, you guessed it, his eye patch. Not everyone was impressed by the Georgia ad. Tony Thomas, former commander of the Special Operations Command, wrote, "Watch this twice now. I was sure it must be an SNL or a Comedy Central skit. Nope, just the baser levels of our political environment slips to with each succeeding day. Embarrassing." The video was not a one-off. This is Crenshaw's stick, especially as he's built close ties with some of the folk who have built their careers on liberal tiers like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro. All of this would be ironic if irony had not long since been pulverized. Here's some cuts from the Crenshaw highlight reel. In December of 2019, Crenshaw was a featured speaker at Kirk's Turning Point USA conference, along with Trump, who used the occasion for a colorful airing of grievances just days after becoming the third president in American history to be impeached. "Crazy Nancy, she's crazy," the president said of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And then Crenshaw bounded up on the stage to embrace him. The president invited Representative Dan Crenshaw, Republican of Texas, who spoke earlier in the program, to come on stage, and Crenshaw handed him his red no voting card. "I'll save that, Dan," Trump said, putting the card in his jacket pocket. This comes from @tball77, who tweeted, "I'll never forget watching Dan Crenshaw interrupt Trump's Turning Point USA conference speech so we could run up like an infatuated teenage girl out of the audience and present Trump with his no vote slip from the impeachment vote. It was so pathetic and cringe-inducing." All of this has made Crenshaw something of a celebrity on the grifter right. In 2017, he went on national television as an outspoken defender of Trump's remarks about Charlottesville. He made a video defending Trump's handling of the coronavirus that was notorious for its misrepresentations, incorrect and context-free claims, and false choices. Crenshaw has also become a master of the cheap shot, saying that even Biden answers questions better than Jen Psaki, who is the new White House press secretary. He also mocks California's energy problems before Texas' own massive brownout this week. This quoting a tweet from the mayor of Los Angeles saying that, telling people to turn off major appliances on Thursday at the 78, turn off excess lights on the appliance you're not using, need every Californian to help conserve energy. Dan Crenshaw quotes this with, "Alexa, show me what happens when you let Democrats control energy policy." Not surprisingly, Crenshaw is not known for his consistency. Last June, in the midst of the pandemic, Crenshaw posted a video of a speech in which he declared proxy voting is cowardly, period. This month, he voted against impeachment by proxy. But all of this was merely prologue to his role in the big lie. As Trump geared up to overturn the election, Crenshaw sneered, "The sanctimonious pearl clutching that our democracy is under threat is absurd." He predicted on November 10th that Biden supporters were the ones who had geared up for riots, saying, quote, on a tweet that he put out on November 10th, "Biden supporters faced with a loss geared up for riots. Businesses boarded up in fear. Trump supporters faced with a loss geared up to fight in court. This difference matters. Media leaders can stop finger wagging at folks using a legitimate process to make their case." Okay, but then it got worse. Crenshaw was one of the 126 GOP representatives who signed on the bogus Texas lawsuit seeking to overturn the election. He tried to explain his role in the sedition caucus by insisting that he was just drawing additional attention to the fact that state legislators had made sweeping changes to election laws. He tweeted out the following on December 11th. "And what is the basis of this case? This. Authorities other than state legislators unilaterally made sweeping changes to election law and therefore dismissed and diminished integrity and faith in the system. My personal hope is that drawing additional attention to it forces states to clean up their act and adopt far better and more secure systems going forward that will garner the kind of faith in our elections that our nation so desperately needs." Critics, of course, point out the obvious hypocrisy, with Chris Hayes tweeting at him, "Texas was one of those states. Why didn't he sue Texas? Also North Carolina. Why not sue North Carolina?" And then there is the cruelty. In a feature titled "Dan Crenshaw is the Trumpiest of the wannabe new Trumps," the Daily Beast recounted this tale. In September 2019, a former staffer on the House Veteran Affairs Committee, Andrea Goldstein, lodged a complaint that she was sexually assaulted at the Washington VA Medical Center. In response, then Veterans Affairs Secretary Robert Willick did not only not try to get to the bottom of what happened, he worked behind the scenes to smear and discredit her. An Inspector General's report on the incident and its handling afterwards accused VA leadership with ethical lapses and unprofessional behavior. But guess what else the investigation found? That Willick claimed he was approached by his own little guardian angel in Crenshaw, who said he'd served with Goldstein and without any evidence called Goldstein a fraud. This attack was used by top VA officials and emails to undermine Goldstein and raise doubts about her credibility. In classic ignore the subpoena Trumpist atavism, Crenshaw refused to speak with the investigators who eventually labeled his actions based on the emails and other evidence as unprofessional and disparaging. Not surprisingly, Crenshaw had fans among the January 6 rioters, including Ashley Babbitt, who was shot and killed. Her Facebook page reflected a number of right-wing interests, though comparatively mainstream ones. Her likes included conservative pundit Ben Shapiro, Representative Dan Crenshaw, and libertarian icon and former Representative Ron Paul, as well as pages supportive of gun rights. So what are we to make of Crenshaw's latest plea for politics of persuasion rather than of grift, memes, and blowbation? It's tempting to see his Daily Wire article merely as a cynical gasp at respectability, but it's actually more revealing than that, because it shows that even as he tosses out dumb tropes to deplorati, Crenshaw knows exactly what he's doing. He knows that it's fraudulent, toxic, grifty, and manipulative, but even though he knows better, does it anyway. He may even feel guilty about it, but not guilty enough to abandon his Trumpian shtick. So he wants it both ways. Both be clown and critic. Fascist wannabe and a voice of sense and conscience. And the bar is so low that he gets plaudits from pundits who so starved for a reasonable Republican that they are willing to settle for Dan Crenshaw. And that speaks volumes about the state of conservatism in 2021. So you got this guy, one eye, two fucking faces. Absolutely charming. I think the lesson to take from tonight's program is that I said after 2016 we should make a law barring anyone from New York from running for president. We should probably extend that to Texas as well, because these guys are all turning out to be a bunch of fucking assholes.
Yeah, that's to say the least. So like, in regards to the allegations this woman raised, we weren't asking then senators or representatives or anyone involved to lick her toes and just believe the things she said.
Just look into it.
In these kinds of situations, you're just asking people like, "Oh, that's a very serious claim. I better look into it." That's like quite literally do what I do. I get mad when people spread false allegations about sexual assault or rape because, well, they're very, very horrible things to happen to a person. And each time you lie about something like that, you're hurting the people this shit actually does happen to worse.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to be a part of the camp that just did not believe these things when they came out on social media. What I have learned is that I can believe what a person says and not have to take sides on the issue before it's investigated.
Mm-hmm.
That's doable. Like, when it comes to the front of the political, you can hold a hammer and a nail at the same fucking time. Why can't you believe two different things that have nothing to do with each other at once?
Because it's not politically convenient.
Yeah, it's not politically convenient. It's childish. Like, and then every moment you do this politically, you make yourself seem more and more monstrous and inhuman. Was it your goal to dehumanize yourself? Because, like, I didn't do that. I didn't make someone seem or feel two-faced here.
Mm-hmm.
We read exactly what these people had said and then reacted the way we wanted to it. That's what I'm trying to outline here. And we read it in its gory detail.
Yeah,
No context withheld.
And to bring it back to, Abbott, like, what exactly is the purpose? Like, or the mayor of Colorado City, Texas, even. What exactly do you have to gain by going out there and telling your own constituents, oh, we don't owe you anything? Like, you don't think that's not going to be brought up at all when you're running again for mayor of that city?
Yeah.
I mean, you really think that there's no possible way that you're going to...
And like you said this about people that are struggling in a harsh winter in a situation no one else has to deal with because they're on the national grid. Texas alone has to face this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's steam in the reality, right? When a hurricane hit Texas, and I heard my friend Steve was out there in a fucking pickup truck wading through high water to give people water to drink, to help people to higher ground. And I saw people on Twitter going, they deserved it because they voted Republican. I'm a lefty. I vote left on most policies. I told those people to jump off a bridge.
I would do the same.
Yeah. Like, if you... And this is what gets complicated, right? We do side with politics because of particular things we want and goals. But we are not fucking heartless demons. We're not monsters that no matter the situation, our heart can't change. That's an example of a soul-rotted, single-minded, drone-like piece of shit, and I want nothing to do with those kinds of people.
Mm-hmm. And if you want... Go ahead.
I would rather people who voted Hillary Clinton crying tears for Texas thinking about all the children that might have drowned in a hurricane over people who voted Hillary talking about how we're stronger together and then saying and doing this shit. No, that don't fucking jive.
Yeah, and look, if you want
to rip up your fucking voter ID. You don't deserve to vote. Like, I can't believe I'm saying that.
And if you really, really want to try and justify your saying, oh, well, they voted for him, they deserve to get... I don't think any of them voted for this, okay? I don't think there's a single person in the state of Texas who voted for Greg Abbott based on the premise that when a freak blizzard hit, he would leave them to die.
This was a super fucking extreme situation and hypothetical where a bunch of dominoes fell in line to make happen. Not one single Texas that night before thought this would happen. Not one single Texan when they voted for this man thought he would be this way or speak to them this way. I refuse that line of reason.
Yeah, and if you want to say, well, maybe they should have thought about it, maybe they should have prepared for it, fine, okay, that's fine. Fair enough.
Hindsight's 20/20, you dumb fucker.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
When you were a leftist advocating for lockdowns, you probably had a totally different feeling when your state was going bankrupt. Like, yeah. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like every fucking lefty stood by their laurels. No, the fuck we did not. When we saw the damage
I'm pretty
done,
sure, like, when the lockdowns...
We second-guessed ourselves every fucking decision we made because of how drastic this situation was.
I mean, for a while, real quick. Governor Cuomo of New York, he was pretty much hailed, but he still had to answer for the fact that there has been quite a bit of neglected old folks in nursing homes due to COVID-19 that just didn't get the care that they needed. We're not just... The lefties are not going to be defending like, oh, he sacrificed that shit. No, he's going to be going after that. People are going to go after him about that.
Yeah, and Cuomo's in a lot of trouble over that. I can tell you that right now.
Yes.
Yeah, and they fucking should. What I hate, though, is while this entire pandemic was going on, we were playing fucking political la-la land. And I'm a fucking guy involved with politics, right? But I'm a living, breathing human being that feels for other people who have done me no ill will. Mm-hmm. I don't care if everybody in fucking Georgia voted Trump. If an earthquake happened there, I'm concerned for the friends I have that live there. Because
Yeah,
I'm a human fucking being.
they're also your, and also
not someone who dehumanizes people based on the state that they live in.
Yeah. Or like, and I fucking made cracks. I fucking made cracks at Georgia's stances on abortion. And I've even fucking said I wish California would sink into the ocean. I have said that on record. In my genuine opinion, I have said these things for banter. But never would I ever imagine that I'd be sitting here clapping and dancing like some stupid monkey while thousands of people drowned in the fucking ocean. How sick in the head would I have to be? And you know what? That's what's wrong with social media here. Everyone fucking assumes you're like that. And to some degree, it is your fault. You spend more time online fucking shit posting and making jokes at other people's expense that you don't show people the compassion and humanity they need. So then they just think you're a soulless fuck. And some of you are probably sitting here with egg on your face thinking, I voted for this guy and now look what he's doing to my family. I'm not going to beat you while you're down. That's fucking sick.
That's not. I mean, look, like it or not, these are your fellow Americans. And your fellow Americans right now are being let down by their state governments.
No, listen. Only the fellow Americans are the fellow Americans who agree with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know what?
SJWs
SJWs are guilty of this too. So, you know, when the fuck are we going to abolish the right-wing SJW movement?
I don't know.
Like we're on to this point, right?
Actually, by the way, so we all remember that in the previous administration, there was a disparity in how there was response to federal disasters. The previous administration tended to show favorability to the states that voted for the president of that administration. All right? Texas went Republican this year. Was very close, but it went Republican. Today, Jen Psaki, White House Press Secretary, said at a briefing today that President Biden is sending emergency generators to Texas, and is moving diesel now to the state to ensure the continuity of power. He's also sending water and blankets and has declared a state of emergency. So think about that. I mean, these are people that did not vote for Joe Biden. Quite a few people that probably vociferously disagree with Biden based on a matter of principle, and he still wants to help them out because he recognizes that these are still his countrymen. These are still Americans that are in a dire need of assistance right now. Okay? So...
Come to think of it real quick. He also sent his condolences to Rush Limbaugh, right?
He did, yeah. I mentioned that earlier. Like, he
by
said
the way,
I forgot about that, so I had to remember. Anyways,
by the way, before people go on saying, "Oh, Dems will just do something about it because it's politically advantageous for them," I mean, I guess I'm sorry, caring for people and acting like you have a soul and treating other human beings like people and human beings that make mistakes and have flaws and don't deserve to suffer this badly gets you votes. I'm really fucking sorry that happens. Maybe it might have something to do with public opinion. Like, maybe you don't think there's anything you could do that would make people pissed at you, really? Like,
yeah,
I want to know the sources of what makes them think that.
So, you know what I say when people say, oh, Dems are just doing this for political advantage? Some, yeah. But it's not their fault that acting like a human being is politically advantageous.
Yeah, it's, I mean, come on. I mean, if you really see showing compassion and empathy is just a political ploy, then honestly, I mean, you're part of the problem.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's tied in. but I don't see how being a piece of shit benefits you. So
Well, the entire
Listen
Republican
here,
vote.
being a piece of shit shows how real you are. That's
I
how
mean,
yeah,
real
show us
you
how
that's
are.
fucking
basically the
real you
modus
are.
operandi of the Republican Party right now.
Vote my way. I'll just leave you to die.
Yeah.
Hey,
But
it's both so I can have a fancy office and a nice
know what?
parking spot
what?
and a huge
Next-
mansion.
Next Republican president should just have a slogan that says "Kill all Americans" again. Let's see if they get elected.
Oh, Jesus. Don't give him any ideas, Sharp.
Americans. All of
Don't
them
give him
shall
any
die.
fucking ideas.
Notice how I said again.
But yeah, so but honestly though, the one thing I wanted to mention this show, and I think this is a good place to wrap up the show, is yesterday Joe Biden held a town hall.
Oh, shit.
Scarlett's joining here. Scarlett's joining in.
Shit. I don't know.
You're
Should I
joining
chop
just
on
as
a
soon as
few
we're
extra minutes
done.
to give Scarlett the
shit.
time?
What's that?
Hello, hello.
You're joining just as soon as we're about to wrap up.
Wrap up the show. Charles
Should I-
comes in.
Should I chuck on like 15 more minutes just to give Scarlett some time?
Yeah, what the hell? Let's do it. Why not? I got no one else to
Alright.
go still.
Well, thank you. Well, my normal bedtime is not happening because of all of the craziness happening in weather right now.
I feel you, girlfriend.
Yeah, so my whole area in the DMV just said, no, we're closed down.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So yeah, Scarlett, we've on the program today. We spent some time on impeachment and how at this point the Republicans who think that Trump is too toxic to win again are either clueless or they're lying. And we spent the last hour or so just kind of dunking on Texas. Based on your tweets, you've been doing kind of the same thing.
Oh, you noticed, right? Well, to be exact, my big gripe about Texas is the fact that Texas exceptionalism has finally come home to roost.
About it, really. We brought up the fact that Rick Perry and Governor Abbott and one mayor from Colorado City, Texas, pretty much just told their constituency to go fuck off and die because who the fuck cares?
Or just suck it up, you know?
Yeah,
like, especially the
Now, if
mayor
I'm
of
not
Colorado.
mistaken, that particular Texas mayor had resigned in shame.
Really?
Yeah.
It had, or are you wanting them to?
He has. I would like to confirm that before I believe it, but I believe he has resigned in shame.
I gotta fucking look this up. You guys keep doing that. Thank God I got
Okay, well, you're looking that up, since you probably want my 2 bits in all of this on this wonderful Texas brisket we're talking about. I'll say the following. Yes, I am extremely annoyed and upset over Texas government. Now, keep in mind, the Texas government as a whole, the statewide government, has been in the control of the Texas GOP for well over the last 10, 20 years. So anything that is happening to Texas right now, you can only put it in the hands of Texas. I mean, if they believe they can do the same to California and blame everything that all the woes of California on California Democrats, well, guess what, Texas?
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 different situations, really.
I know, but I'm just saying, if you're going to call a spade, you have to be willing to accept the same for
See,
yourself.
I'd say this is actually where it's politically advantageous to be ignorant. All I see is people breaking paintings to start fires, and no matter what, I want to stop it, so I called my governor.
And so here's my big gripe. When it comes to all of this, is that I'm upset on 2 different fronts here. I'm upset as a progressive liberal because the people who are suffering, and there should be no need of it. And I believe there should be no excuse that this power company that mostly supplies most of the power for Texas can't find a way to evenly distribute power throughout most of these different cities that have been affected. That being said, I'm also upset over thinking outside of myself, how just stupid Abbott is being, because here's an opportunity for him to at least appear bipartisan, where he could show and appear to have shown empathy. But he used his time to complain on Hannity about air turbines. What the hell?
When his fucking when one of his constituents is literally talking about wanting to, if she physically had the money she'd spend on electricity, she'd rather burn it to keep her kids warm.
Okay.
We're at areas where people are talking about doing what they did in the Great Depression to keep warm.
Okay, I had to look this up.
It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
I looked this up. Okay. Supposedly, the mayor of Colorado City, Texas, Tim Boyd, admitted to resign, but it's kind of unclear because he made a second post that said that he didn't intend to speak for the city or the county that he's in, as he was only just a citizen and not mayor anymore. It is unclear if he has officially resigned, considering the Dallas Morning News has reported he's scheduled to speak at a city council meeting last week. He's already probably resigning right now because of his little outburst. His wife is fired from her job.
Oof.
There is no confirmation or comment from the Colorado City, Texas government.
And that's
here's the thing. I don't call it cancel culture. I call it consequence culture.
Well, this one is an instance of consequence.
I blatantly understand that the things I say can reflect poorly on the people around me. But when it comes to actually moving towards bodies of change, did his wife say anything involved with that? Like,
I don't know, honestly. I'm getting this. This is a short article from USA Today, so.
Like, I mean, I get it, consequences and all, but there's a point where I have to ask if grown adults are being petty. And
I think we're already at the point where they're being petty when Governor Abbott would rather go on Fox News and blame the Green New Deal than actually try to govern his state.
And the Green New Deal hasn't even put in.
I literally told Abbott I'd let him drown in a fucking lake. You guys heard me say that. So I'd let him drown in a river, rushing water and all. I wouldn't drown him myself. I just wouldn't reach out to his hand as he was reaching for mine.
But yeah. So
there's that.
That tough guy from Colorado City might have been resigned.
Big fucking tough guy. Can't do jack and shit for his people. Thinks they
One thing that does also bother me was the fact that this was not something that was not unforeseen. Texas had historically speaking, periods of great freezing points in their history. They have records of reaching down into like the tens and even single digits in the past. Now, it is really out there for them to get it, but it has happened. And they were told, like, you should prepare for, like, the big one when it happens.
Yep, we pretty much brought that up.
Yeah, but they completely ignored it. They completely ignored that warning.
By whom exactly?
I believe that the Texas Department of Energy did actually do a couple of studies that said, look, in the event we do have a severe cold snap, we are not going to be adequately prepared to deal with this stuff. We got to start winterizing the equipment. We need to have plans. And
so
their own people.
This is where I do the same thing we did during COVID-19 to other states' governors. The state governor, senator, representatives, what did they do to inform the public of this when people weren't listening to the commission?
In the case Texas didn't do anything. Like, I read the articles that they told the people that they told them that, okay, yeah, it's gonna get cold and sure there might be power outages, but it's gonna be like an hour. Like, nobody said the power was gonna be out for days.
I want to bring that up because one of the points of contention when it comes to criticizing Texas legislature is that while the Energy Commission worked hard to inform the public, the legislature, the body in charge of, running the state did absolutely nothing. I can't stress that fine detail, because when we talk about the hens coming home to roost, people are the way they are. Like when it comes to if Scarlet says something versus if Howard Stern says something, more people are going to listen to Howard Stern than Scarlet. I'm sorry, that's the way things are. But
Shucks.
But that's just the way human society works. That doesn't mean Scarlet doesn't have anything important to say. It just means that people want to hear it from certain people. And if those people don't take the responsibility to disseminate that information, then those people are lost. It's like if talk show hosts didn't work day and night to actively inform the public on methods and ways they could use to survive economic depression or crashes when they happened. If entertainers did not feel some kind of moral obligation to their audience. It is sad when comedians have to work harder to inform the public than politicians do. And it is sad when people like me have to be up here batting away at all the bullshit and saying, yes, you can criticize Perry, and yes, you can be critical of your own people and those outside your inner circle, especially when you're doing something different entirely to try to help the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Lead by example. And honestly, I feel like I just did.
I think so too. And but I want to go back really quick to what you said, how you often said that you felt that Texas could, in theory, survive on its own. I always kind of roll my eyes at the people who advocate for the independence of various states, because they don't often think about the actual logistics involved in truly declaring independence. Like when we declared independence from Great Britain, it was a real rough going for a while. This nation very easily could have folded. We didn't. And we had to work very, very hard to get from the 13 colonies to 50 states that we have now. And so it's like whenever I hear that Texas is going to, whenever Texas is like, we're going to declare independence. It's like, okay, yeah, all right, sure. What do you do about trade? Are you willing to renegotiate all your trade deals now? What about the Mexican border? You're going to have to establish border checkpoints on your northern border now, because that's technically now the United States border. What if the Mexicans decide, you know what, we're sick and tired of you kicking all of our people out. We're just going to fucking take you back. Fuck the Alamo. What are you going to do then? I mean, the only thing more hilarious is like Hawaii. Like, the people in Hawaii that want to make their nation a sovereign country once again. It's like, yeah, that's a nice thought, but let's be real. You guys are going to last about a fucking week as an independent nation before China or Japan or someone comes in to take over, okay? That's just, you don't have to like it, but that's just the reality of the situation.
If you're stuck as a nation state under us and you don't really like it, I would say fight for a more politically advantageous seat at the table.
And, well, yeah, Texas isn't really going to be in a lot of position right now because the GOP is about to self-immolate.
Yeah, Texas is not really in a place to negotiate. That's why I'm offering pity points.
But yeah, it's like, honestly, this is going to be the punchline now for at least the next few years. Whenever someone says, well, Texas could be its own country, it's going to be like, you couldn't even keep your own lights on during a fucking blizzard. How are you going to manage to be your own country if you can't even keep the lights on?
I always keep referring to this one segment from Countdown with Keith Olbermann, who tried to gauge what it will actually take for Texas to try to be its own nation from like way back in 2009, when they were upset that, we have a black president now. We must secede from the Union. I mean, imagine the shit that they have to deal with. Yes, as Helio said,
Right.
they can't even keep your power on. What makes them think they're going to be able to have their own infrastructure, their own government, basically all that stuff?
Oh, hey, okay. Really quick, got some breaking news here. This comes from Keith Edwards, who, as you guys know, he was affiliated with the Lincoln Project and then he did work for John Ossoff's campaign. He just tweeted out what appears to be a photo of someone who looks like Ted Cruz flying to Cancun while his state is under a state of emergency.
Dude.
Like, I can't confirm whether or not this is Ted Cruz, but I got a guy here in an airport, is wearing the same mask as Ted Cruz, has roughly the same haircut as Ted Cruz, and I don't know. I'm going to post a tweet for you guys in here, and I'll let you all judge for yourselves, but we got a guy
It's too damn
who looks
cold here.
a
I
hell of
wanna
a
get out
lot
of
like
here.
Ted Cruz flying to fucking Cancun while his state is freezing.
Oh my God.
He's wearing glasses, but that might actually be.
It's too damn cold here. I want to get out of here.
The resemblance is uncanny, but I can't really see. Like, it has to be a little closer, right? I can't.
Yeah, I
say-
agree. It's too far away to really.
Yeah,
Make
because here's the problem, right? That haircut, that's just the dad haircut. Like, I've seen that haircut of plenty of people in this state too, so I can't reasonably judge it by the hair. I'm seeing maybe a bit more beard scruff than this current Senate picture I'm seeing of Ted Cruz. And the big thing that really throws off the appearance is the glasses. I have never seen
It's
Ted
also
Cruz
the
wear glasses.
question of the mullet, because Ted Cruz recently got a mullet haircut for reasons that are unbeknownst to me. I'm going to paste this here in the chat to get a look at the haircut.
Oh no.
Oh God, I think I just broke Scarlet.
Yeah, business in the front, white supremacists in the back.
Well,
My eyes.
I have never seen Scarlet go blind that fast.
Yeah, this is a red letter day for the program. Finally managed to break Scarlet.
I think the ultimate quote here for this particular episode, if people ever look back on it, will be the moment when Scarlet was just like, "Oh God, my eyes."
Get this man a barber.
Now that is what I like to hear. Very humorous. Love
Yeah,
it.
I'm looking at the replies to Edward's tweet here, and I think half of them think that it's Ted, and half of them don't think it's Ted. So I
mean,
guess we'll never know.
You can wind up accidentally coming across with someone that will look like you. I mean, there has been some
this guy looks a
instances of
little
people
more trimmed in the
accidentally
back.
finding their quote-unquote twinsy. I think at one point somebody ended up meeting their look-alike on a plane. Same flight.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show this. A friend of mine said he thinks it is Ted Cruz. I'm gonna show friends of mine. Let's see if we can try to get a consensus as to whether or not this is Ted Cruz. I never thought that we would end the show like this, that we'd be zapootering a photo of a random dude in the Air Force to see if Ted Cruz is skipping town and going to Cancun.
For one, I'm having some doubts because that hair doesn't look as shaven as the sides of Ted's head, and the hair doesn't seem like it hangs back as far.
Well,
It
keep in
actually-
mind the
It actually
comparison.
seems like it makes a cohesive bowl.
Well, keep in mind the photo I posted of showing the mullet was taken on February 12th. That was 5 days ago. I don't know how quick the hair would have grown in. That does appear to be the same mask, and like even if the hair is a bit thicker. Also, there's a second photograph here where
No, that is
Keith has-
literally a come and take it mask. Yep.
Yeah, and also Keith posted a second photograph, which is that is actually this. I have to zoom in, but yep, that it does say "come and take it" on the mask.
Yeah.
So that is at least the same kind of mask. I don't know if Ted's more portly or whatever, but Keith posted another photograph. Okay, so Also, he says that he just posted again. Apparently, it's taken at 4:10 p.m. today per the screenshot. The flight was at 4:45 coming out of Houston. I'm gonna pull up FlightAware. Actually, I wonder where what airport was this taken. I'm gonna see if I can pull up FlightAware and finding out where this flight went. I'm searching. I'm literally searching like fucking FlightAware now. Origin. So Houston. I'm gonna say Houston. Let's call Houston Bush Intercontinental. That is probably what it would be. To Cancun.
Also,
Cancun
Charlotte,
International.
I just wanted to say I'm really glad you decided to use some of your remaining time to actually come on.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it.
Talking to Scarlet?
Yeah.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Still thinking about that haircut, huh?
I can't not see it.
Okay, so I do have a United 1020 flight out of Houston, Texas that was scheduled to depart at 4:45 and arrive in Cancun, Mexico at 8:02 Eastern. It's 4:45 Central, 8:02 Eastern, but the flight was canceled. So I don't know if he actually got out or not, or if we moved to another flight or whatever, because there were a couple other, there was like another flight on Southwest that left later on. I don't think any United flight, the next United flight I have out of there was, oh, I'm sorry, that's actually Tuesday. I'm looking at today's flight. Yes, there was in fact a United Airlines flight out of Houston Intercontinental to Cancun, United Airlines 1020 at 4:45 that was not canceled, that arrived on time. So if that was in fact Ted Cruz, he is currently sipping pina coladas in Mexico right now. So
yeah, like just we'll go with allegedly the guy you elected to stand up and speak for you just said, "Fuck this! I want a pina colada." Pina colada, yeah, there we go. Pina colada, pina colada. Ugh. I hurt my tongue.
Yeah,
pina colada.
You just could have stuck with what I ended up thinking of what Ted Cruz's.
Okay, all right. So I got something else here. This is a tweet from a guy who met Ted Cruz at an airport in 2019. I'm only bringing it up because he's clearly wearing the same shoes as the guy in the photograph. I'm gonna paste this here in the Discord chat.
How many years ago was this?
This was 2019, so a little over a year ago. December 27, 2019, so a little more than a year ago.
A good pair of shoes can last you 3 or 4.
Yeah, and he's clear. Those shoes do appear to be the same shoes of the guy that we think is Ted Cruz wearing in the photograph.
Yeah.
You know, if we started off the episode with this, I would say that the episode title should be "Where in the World is Ted Cruz?"
He's also wearing glasses in this image the person showed off, which they were able to definitively confirm this was Ted Cruz. So,
oh boy,
Ted Cruz does wear glasses when he's out in the public sphere.
So he basically left Texas to go to Cancun because fuck them people who are dying of carbon monoxide poisoning, trying to stay warm. He wants to go to Cancun. It's too damn cold in here.
Oh, okay, all right. So Keith Edwards posted another photograph with a woman who is circled. I believe that this could actually be Ted Cruz's wife. So
is it ugly as sin?
Yeah, I posted it here. The woman who's circled in here, I guess, apparently is Ted Cruz's wife. I'm actually going to look up how a picture of her. Ted Cruz's wife, Heidi Cruz is her name. I'm going to see if I got a photo here. I actually can't tell if that's her or not because she's wearing... The photo I have on Wikipedia, she has a different hairstyle than the photo I have here.
Is this stalkerish, guys? Because now we're going into like fucking forensics at this point.
I know we are zaprudering this considerably. We're just trying to find out where in the world
where in the world
is Ted Cruz?
No, just Ted.
Okay, we'll just say
you guys are about to go full TMZ on him.
We'll just say he allegedly went to Cancun. That protects the press all the time, right?
Yeah, we'll say that a guy who looks a hell of a lot like Ted Cruz got on a flight to Cancun.
Yeah, a guy that looks a hell of a lot like him may not be him, but
yeah,
could
we're
be.
Basically going to say that unless some solid proof that Ted has not left Texas because it's too damn cold and he's not ass enough to deal with all of his constituents' problems.
For one, I have two reasons. This podcast is small, so in the off chance that somebody did decide to sue us for defamation or slander, we wouldn't be able to defend ourselves. But at the same time, I don't want to accuse any innocent person of being Ted Cruz.
Yeah, I would not want to do that. I would not wish that fate. Like I told you guys, there are two kinds of people in this world: Ted Cruz and people that hate Ted Cruz. So I would not want to accuse some random dude of being Ted Cruz.
You don't want to be Ted Cruz.
We should give us a little wait until there's actual confirmation. For now, I kind of want to call it because holy shit, we went around.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
We were gonna end, but then we were gonna give Scarlet 15 minutes, but then we all got caught up in Ted Cruz.
So far, we've given Scarlet almost 20.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hopefully
you'll be around for next week's show.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about we wrap this up?
Okay, yeah, pretty exciting night. We started off with again addressing the death of Rush Limbaugh and talking about impeachment, and we ended with trying to find out if Ted Cruz had fled the country. So that's not often that we get to participate in a relatively obscure developing news story, but it is what it is. We'll be back with you all next week with more fun to be had in a matter of speaking. We'll give you any updates on the situation in Texas as they're warranted. Hopefully everyone down there is staying warm.
Yeah, please.
Stay inside, bundle up. Don't use gas generators inside your houses if you have access to those as well. Keep your phones charged. Looks like there may be another ice storm coming in, so this probably, unfortunately, isn't going to be the end of this. And we'll just keep you all abreast about any other major political situations going on. I know a couple of you have asked about the situation in Myanmar with the military coup. We haven't really had time to address that. We might get around to that next week. We might not, depending on what happens. I do want to address that because that's obviously a serious situation from a pro-democracy standpoint. And yeah, that's going to be it for us. So stay positive, test negative, stay the fucking warm. Actually, that is a good way to stay warm. I'm just throwing that out there. And we will see you all next week. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.